the Agile brand.
Welcome to the B2B Agility Podcast, where we look at the factors that drive success in B2B marketing, with a focus on the people, processes, data, and platforms that make B2B brands stand out and thrive in a competitive marketplace. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advising Fortune 1000 brands on MarTech, marketing operations, and CX, best-selling author and speaker. Now let's get on to the show. Is your supply chain a competitive advantage or your biggest liability waiting to be exposed? Agility requires preparing for the unpredictable, especially when your brand's ability to deliver hinges on global events that are entirely out of your control. In a world of political unrest, regulatory change, and natural disasters, the brands that win are the ones who can pivot fast without losing their balance. Today, we're going to talk about the crucial connection between modern supply chain strategy and brand agility. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome Salva Lombardo, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Koopa. Salva, welcome to the show.
Hi, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to talking about this with you. Definitely a timely topic here. Before we dive in, though, why don't we start with you giving a little background on yourself and what you're currently doing at Koopa?
Oh, sure. So, I joined 3/4 of a year ago. So very nice time I'm having there. And I'm since 20 years roughly in the space of supply chain and procurement. Basically run a lot of procurement technology products at SAP. So one of the big SaaS vendors too. And decided to stay in that space and do my best with Koopa. Yeah, that's me. So Chief and Product Technology Officer, obviously, heading product and engineering, cloud ops, everything when it comes to getting the product into a service and getting it to the clients.
Perfect. Well, yeah, let's, we're going to talk about a few things here, but I want to start with this idea of resilience and risk. And so when you look at how brands are handling disruption in 2025, surely there's a lot of things: political unrest, regulatory changes, climate challenges, and more. What do you think is missing from these brands' approach to supply chain resilience?
Yeah, well, missing is always a little bit difficult to say because obviously the point is all brands do good business, right? I mean, if they would not be in good business, they would have maybe reacted even before. And that's why missing is always, I think, exactly the key word. Do I recognize that it's missing? I think the 2-3 triggers to see this is, for example, do I really judge rightly risk profiles of my suppliers? And it's just a very interesting, very easy, basic question, it seems. But I think that's where missing parts are, because if you don't do a really due diligence way on judging your suppliers, if they are the right ones, from a risk profile perspective, that's a part which I'm seeing as a pattern. Or a second could be hey, how much automation do I have in my recognition of problematics in my supply chain? Be it now, the place of where I supply. How much is this in any case automated enough that I can really immediately see there is some geopolitical problem, or that I can see there is a thunderstorm or whatever happens, right? That's a missing part. And maybe to mention a third one, and that's maybe one which is very near to the current situation. How much can I really immediately at least judge and simulate I call it the tariff situations at the moment, because every day maybe some new idea comes, and not because of the tariffs itself. It can be a strategy, it can be whatever, but you as business need to immediately translate this into your impact. And I think that's a missing piece too, that then the simulation takes partly longer than maybe the reactions you should have. So that's the 3 themes, I would say, Greg, which I see today, in many brands happening.
Yeah. And certainly there's a lot of considerations of making a brand successful, but, why supply chain strategy is maybe it's not mentioned quite as much as some other things, like go-to-market strategy and some of those very customer-facing, maybe the flashier things. But, why is supply chain strategy one of the most important tools in a brand's arsenal when it comes to staying agile and competitive.
Yeah, I guess it plays into also the missing parts, because I think to sum this up is the speed of reaction. You can translate this into, if you do not have a supply chain strategy, are you really prepared to speedy enough react on certain changes? That's how I would really simply put it. If you don't have it, don't, be not surprised that you can't react quickly. That's how I would put it in just very easy words. Obviously, you can go deeper, like how quickly am I to adapt a new supplier? How quickly am I to understand new routes for my supply chain, which needs to come, right? So all of this, Greg, obviously, lays this down a few layers, but at the end, you can always sum it up. If I don't have a strategy, and it's not only supply chain, it's also a spend strategy, a supplier strategy, a category spend strategy. If you don't have this, your reaction speed is not as quick as your competition speed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that also speaks to, including supply chain, but beyond the diversification, right? So it's relying too heavily on a single region, relying too heavily on a supplier. What are some of the mistakes that you see companies making when building or failing to build a diversified supply chain?
Yeah. Well, I think the most obvious mistake is don't, and this is obviously being at Koopa, I now, I have the the data set available, and it's maybe easy for me, obviously, to say this, but because I can provide this to our customers. But I mean this really from my absolutely experience. The transparency of your business in data points, in figures, in number of suppliers per material, spend per suppliers per material, supply chain diversification in the sense of, how much am I getting the supply from different countries to balance my risks? All of this is, for me, transparency of your business when it comes to spend and supply chain, Greg. And I think that's what I see. I mean, in all respect, I think every brand has so excellent, strategies. But this is when I need to look the first time into it, this is what in 9 of 10 cases I see not being there. Not necessarily because of missing digitalization. I think many brands have understood that you better digitalize. I think that's over. But not the right tools and system support for business, procurement, business, supply chain, to have the transparency on their data. And that's why I would put the very, very first baseline when you get started and want to do strategy. Get the data set, get a company which can give you those data, and then doing benchmarks and start from there on getting more and more excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that then. Technology, as you mentioned, clearly plays a role in agility of the supply chain. Maybe start a little bit with, and I want to talk a little bit more generally about AI and some other things as well. But can you talk a little bit about what Coupa does and the role that it plays, and then I want to talk a little bit more about AI in general.
Yeah. I mean, just very quickly, because we should not spend. I mean, I think we should. I'm absolutely, so super keen to talk about the business. Though I think Coupa is the technology provider for an end-to-end business when it comes from supply chain to sourcing, contracting, with suppliers, to the operational part, and the pay part, right? Me being, like getting paying the suppliers quicker, everything which is about the invoicing part. And then on the other side, as we are building the network, which runs and powers the global trade, then the supplier offerings. So suppliers in the same network, creating their profile, creating the risk profile, uploading the certification. And with this, matching the data set I was talking about. And we call ourselves the business spend platform, because we know the spend end to end from the very start strategy to the very end paying it, right? And then obviously with supplier inputs in the middle. So that's Greg, how you can roughly explain the platform.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's a good, so, knowing that and knowing kind of that view that you have on this, certainly, AI is playing a big role in all aspects of business from end to end as well. How are you seeing tools like, AI tools, whether it's, predictive or other planning tools or other things, how are you seeing AI playing a role in, making it easier for brands to be more proactive versus reactive in such a volatile kind of state of things?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, spot on question, because this is the number one question the CPOs ask me to. And Greg, I'm starting. I like to start this answer with one thing I love to say, because I was long time enough also on the business side of the house and not only technology. Honestly, brands should not worry about the word AI, because the word AI itself is a technology. It's a wonderful technology disruption. That's it. But the disruption itself is no value yet for the business, Greg. And the value is now my duty as a technology provider, as a vendor for software and for SaaS, to turn AI into a business value. So that's why AI itself will not bring value if the vendor of choice is not making the best out of it. That's, Greg, how I like to, in general, answer the AI question, because I'm getting often the question from CPOs or business like, hey, how can I leverage AI? As well, it's your vendor which needs to leverage AI and then deliver for you the right SaaS services, which are AI empowered, which again can, double down on what services could be delivered compared to others. So that's how I see, at least as Koopa, our duty for our customers, right? And then it comes obviously to the business value. So, and the business value is, for me, make the unpredictable today predictable. I think that's a theme which I like to really, really often spend on the time, because if I would just argue with automation, it would jump too not far enough.
Yeah.
Because the unpredictable is the things which today is really hard for businesses to predict, right? Obviously, they call it unpredictable. That's why it's a little bit of a word game. But AI, with the technology on scanning and having this multiple skills which you today can't even imagine, Greg. I mean, you see this in a business, in a normal private life, right? If you ask ChatGPT a question, and we are not using this because we use more the business LLM models, but you get my point. You get answers which, like, oh my God, I would have not predicted that they know that, right? And that's the point of unpredictability in business. And the second part, obviously, being, the speed and the upskilling of my two-day business, meaning what today maybe I have a lot of manual and, let's say, not the most strategic tasks, they will shift into much more automated and strategic operations, which the other ones will be done by AI, as AI is that intelligent that you can trust that my services will deliver this. And I think those two areas is how I would describe it. And, just one concrete example, and just close this. I imagine an onboarding as a service for suppliers in the supply chain, right? Which is AI enabled. So an intelligent AI agent helps suppliers to onboard, because all this immense data set are anyway there. They are either on the Koopa platform, or they are either on an internet place where the supplier can say, like, yeah, that's it. That's my certification. Yes, they're judging me rightly. No, that's wrong. Correct that one. And then a wonderful profile with an AI agent will be created. That's what we are working at the moment on, which makes just a supply the onboarding one day a non-event, right? It's just there. And I think that's just an example for how AI will help, at least with Koopa, to make the business life easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, it's solely thinking about the automation and the workflow doesn't kind of do the opportunity justice as far as some of the AI stuff goes. But there are incredible, I mean, even, the examples that you just mentioned, I mean, that's an incredible time savings and everything like that as well. In addition to the technological part of prediction and all that, like what do businesses, when you're able to predict better and react more easily, what does that mean for the business in maybe from the operational standpoint? So in other words, they're going to have these tools that enable them to pivot better, but they're used to, whatever, 3, 6, 12-month projections, and, kind of the processes aren't necessarily in place. Like, what does that mean for a leader that's trying to anticipate these things being available, but has a team that's kind of thinking 5 years ago?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there may be three areas. One, I touched the very beginning of our talk. You remember that I said speed?
Yeah.
I think it's all about speed. Honestly, that's the top one. And you can argue there in every area that if you really start that journey as a business together, obviously with your IT department and with the right vendor of choice, of software choice on a SaaS platform, I think one top result is much more day-to-day calculation, which you can work from now in maybe a few minutes on recalculating every kind of simulation. We are seeing at the moment a 50 to 100 times quicker, for example, logistic network scenario calculation by changing one parameter, which in past took us maybe a day. We can do now in a very quick way that, the buyer, the sourcer, the category manager can immediately, and also the supply chain operator, can quickly do decisions on seeing like what changes if I'm increasing the tariff 0.1% here. And then you get three scenarios and you continue, right? So this simulation is, believe it or not, is a highly, highly complex thing. And the compute and AI allows us today a much, much quicker way on doing this. So that's just making an example, right? That's number one. Number two is, and this is maybe an exciting thing for all, I call this internally that AI will be the new user experience. So what do I mean with this? I'm an absolutely believer, and we are working towards this, that one day the menu and module way of working, how we are used today, right? Whatever you use, like even buying something as a consumer, will disappear. I'm absolutely a believer in that one day, at least for easy to medium complex tasks, a conversational AI agent, in our case, it's Koopa Navi. We call this agent Koopa Navi, will be that intelligent that you don't need to do anything except of talking or typing with this agent and doing the rest of your work. And be it also supply chain scenarios, be it risk assessment, be it the way on ordering, just a simple task on operational procurement. But all of this will be step by step replaced by agents and intelligent agents, and not necessarily modules, right? And so that's number two. And I think what I also see is like, and this is a way of, the slice and dice of how you look at data, analyzing them, instantly understanding what is going with your business, is something which if you do it right, will become a table stake of everybody which is working in procurement. Meaning, an instant question to Navi, which is again our AI agent from Koopa, or maybe a prompt or a button click that you get immediately the view of your transparent spend data, of your transparent supply chain routes, where are disruption, that the future will be like data insight and then action, right? And not like menu modules and then finding out in which menu. It will be like, hey, give me the data, what happens? Okay, then please do this, right? And that's how I see this world moving. At least this is what we do at Coupa, and want to be obviously the first being there and showing that it is possible.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's exciting. Well, Salva, thanks so much for joining today and for your ideas and insights. One last question for you before we wrap up.
Yeah.
What do you do to stay agile in your role, and how do you find a way to do it consistently?
Wow, that's a good one. Well, I think I'm trying always, I think there's like a little ritual I have, or how to say, like I'm having always I'm putting the phone for a few, maximum an hour away, and I'm trying to read the paper. I mean, even if it sounds like very odd, but still, as being a really front runner in software, I'm love to read it. It just gets me back into my brain working, so to say, in read and understand. For some reason, it works so well for me. Just getting aside the phone for an hour or so in the evening when I'm just trying to relax, that charges me for the next 24 hours. If you include a little sleep, I'm back in the next day. So I'm doing this quite regularly. It helps me so much to just stay very up. And reading, obviously, the newest in the software area and procurement space and supply chain space. So that's how I'm keeping up with this. And I'm super passionate for that area. So I love this area, and I just want to make it, disrupt and revolutionize it.
Yeah, love it. Well, again, I'd like to thank Salva Lombardo, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Koopa, for joining the show. You can learn more about Salva and Koopa by following the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to the B2B Agility Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.b2bagility.com. That's b2bagility.com. While you're there, check out my series of best-selling Agile brand guides covering a wide variety of marketing technology topics, or you can search for Greg Kihlstrom on Amazon. Until next time, stay focused and stay agile.
The Agile brand.